My cousin didn't warn me. She didn't lower her voice, didn't lean in, didn't mask the cruelty with sugar the way she usually did around other people. He just reached out, quick, sharp, and yanked my crutch. The motion was so sudden my balance didn't stand a chance. My body pitched forward, the carpet rushing toward me in a blur of beige fibers and scattered sunlight. I hit the floor hard, palms first, knees second, dignity last. A metallic jolt shot through my leg, the old injury roaring awake as if it had been waiting for this exact humiliation. Behind me, laughter erupted. Real laughter. Not nervous, not mistaken, not misunderstood. My family laughed. My mother hid her smile behind her hand. My aunt chuckled openly. And my cousin, standing over me, twirling my crutch like a baton, smirked with the confidence of someone who had never been punished for anything in her life. "Oh, come on," she said. "Stop pretending you're helpless. You're fine." Her voice was sweet, almost playful, but sugar can carve sharpest when poured over salt. The living room smelled like old wood polish and the lemon cookies cooling on the counter. Afternoon light streamed in through dusty blinds, striping the floor in warm gold. The room looked soft and safe, right up until the moment it wasn't. I pushed myself upright slowly, my left leg trembling under the weight. Pain throbbed beneath the skin like a second heartbeat. That's when the laughter died abruptly, because the front door creaked open. My grandfather stepped into the room. He moved slower than he once had, leaning heavily on his wooden cane, the one he carved himself decades ago, initials etched into the side. His winter coat smelled faintly of peppermint and cold air. His eyes, sharp blue, aging in the kindest way, took in the scene with a single sweep. The crutch. The floor. My trembling leg. The shrinking smirk on my cousin's face. And then his gaze landed on me. It softened instantly. "Lydia," he said quietly, "are you hurt?" My name in his voice felt like a warm blanket folded gently over the moment. I nodded, embarrassed not from the fall but from being witnessed in that vulnerable position. He turned toward the others, slowly, deliberately. My family straightened. All at once. As if their spines remembered something their hearts had forgotten. No one spoke. Grandpa lifted his chin slightly. "Who did this?" Silence rolled through the room, thick and heavy. No cookie sweetness left. No sunlight warm enough to hide behind. Only the truth waiting in the air like a storm. My cousin swallowed. Hard. She dropped the crutch. It hit the floor with a loud clatter that echoed far too long. Grandpa didn't need an answer. He'd already seen everything. His eyes moved from face to face, disappointment settling like winter frost. "A family," he said slowly, "is judged by how it treats its weakest moment. Not its strongest. Weakest moment. Not weakest person." A message hidden in a sentence. A warning disguised as wisdom. No one dared breathe. He walked toward me, each step steady but heavy with age. He crouched with effort, knees cracking, and retrieved my crutch, brushing off a faint layer of dust before handing it to me with both hands. "Up you go," he said softly. "With dignity. Always." His hands were warm. Mine were shaking. I stood. My cousin looked away. My mother fidgeted with her bracelet. The others stared at the floor as if it held absolution. And then, in a voice quieter than the room deserved, Grandpa said, "This will be addressed." A sentence so simple it startled the air. He didn't yell. He didn't shame. He didn't demand apologies. He just said it like a promise. Or a warning. Or both. "My name is Lydia Monroe. I'm 28 years old. And the day my cousin yanked my crutch and pushed me to the floor was the day my grandfather decided something quietly, firmly, and permanently. What none of us knew was that he had written everything down. That he had prepared for this moment long before we even realized a moment like this could matter. And when he died 6 months later, his will reading became the most silent room my family had ever sat in. But back then, in that living room, sunlight splitting across the carpet, my leg throbbing, my cousin's face paling under Grandpa's stare, I had no idea what was coming. No idea that a single line in a legal document would rearrange the entire hierarchy of our family. No idea that Grandpa's kindness wasn't soft. It was strategic. But I felt something change that day. Not justice. Not yet. Just the faint, quiet beginning of being seen. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts. It means more than you know. That night after the incident, I stayed in my room, the walls painted a pale blue that never felt comforting enough. The air smelled like the lavender spray my aunt used every evening, an attempt to create calm in a house where cruelty lived beneath the carpets. I replayed the fall again and again, not out of trauma but confusion. Why did they laugh? Why was humiliation entertainment? Why didn't my mother get up? Why did my cousin enjoy it? And then, why did Grandpa see it all so clearly? A memory drifted in, soft, distant, achingly gentle. I was 12, hobbling on a sprained ankle after a school hike. My cousin had mocked me then too, drama queen, while my aunt rolled her eyes. But Grandpa had walked beside me the entire way home. Step for slow step. He said nothing. He didn't need to. Kindness doesn't announce itself. It simply appears when needed. That night the house creaked softly. I heard drawers opening in Grandpa's study, paper rustling, his cough echoing faintly through the hallway. Hours later, a single lamp still glowed under his door. I never knew then what he was writing. Not until the will. Not until the line that made the room freeze. Not until the inheritance shifted like a plate breaking clean beneath us. But standing there that day, my crutch trembling under my fingers, his hands still warm from lifting me, I sensed something. He wasn't going to let this go. He wasn't just disappointed. He was documenting. And none of us understood the weight of that yet. Especially not my cousin. Especially not the rest of the family who thought cruelty was a harmless joke. The next morning Grandpa left early. No one knew where. My mother complained about the draft he'd let in. My aunt made coffee. My cousin pretended nothing had happened. And I stood quietly in the doorway, gripping the crutch, the echo of Grandpa's words lingering. This will be addressed. Addressed how? I wouldn't know the answer for 6 months. Not until the will reading. Not until the room went silent. Not until every smirk vanished. But the first shift, the first fracture, happened right there in that living room, the moment the person everyone underestimated became the one person Grandpa trusted most. And the line he wrote for me, the first line of the will, would crush them all. My grandfather died in early spring. It was one of those mornings where the light felt too gentle for the news it carried. Soft sunlight slipping through sheer curtains, warming the floor in thin golden stripes. Birds chirped outside, oblivious to the fact that something foundational in my life had just been removed. The air smelled faintly of wet earth and the first hints of blooming lilac. My mother's voice cracked when she announced it. My aunt sobbed into a dish towel. My cousin cried too, the kind of dramatic, choking sobs she believed earned sympathy. But grief hits different when love was uneven. Mine didn't come in waves. It came in a single quiet ache, a hollow that felt less like breaking and more like missing a lantern in the dark. Grandpa had been my one soft place to land. The only one who steadied me. The only one who never laughed when I fell. The house felt emptier without him. But heavier too. Because I knew a reckoning was coming. He had promised even without saying the actual words. And he kept every promise he ever made. The will reading was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon. Rain tapped lightly at the windows of the lawyer's office, tiny rhythmic notes against the glass. The waiting room smelled like old books and polished wood. A grandfather clock ticked in slow, solemn beats. My family arrived in a cluster. My mother in her pearls, my aunt in her too-tight blazer, my cousin with mascara slightly smudged to look mournful, my uncle with the confident stride of someone expecting money. I came alone. My crutch steady under my arm. No one greeted me. But they stared, subtle, darting glances, still believing Grandpa had left everything to them because they were the real family. My cousin leaned toward my mother and whispered loudly enough for me to hear. She shouldn't even be here. My mother didn't correct her. The lawyer emerged from the doorway, a tall woman with gray streaks in her hair and a voice calm enough to command silence. "Please follow me," she said. We entered a long conference room with cold lighting and a polished mahogany table. Papers were stacked neatly at each seat. A portrait of my grandfather sat at the head of the table, his eyes soft, smile subtle. I felt the ache return. Personal. The lawyer took her place and pressed a button on a small recorder. "Mr. Theodore Monroe prepared this will personally," she said. He left very clear instructions. My cousin straightened in her seat, adjusting her blouse as though preparing for applause. The lawyer flipped to the first page. "The will begins with a personal statement," he insisted be read aloud. Her gaze lifted to meet ours. My family has always shown me who they are in small moments. Some were kind. Some were not. But one moment revealed everything. My cousin stiffened. The lawyer continued reading. On a day when cruelty was treated as entertainment, one person in this family stood with dignity, and one person fell by another's hand. My aunt's eyes widened. My mother's fingers froze on her purse strap. My cousin went still, her mascaraed lashes not blinking. I felt my heart thud once, heavier than the rest. Before this will distributes anything, the lawyer read. I want the first line to be spoken clearly. The person who harmed Lydia Monroe will inherit nothing from me. Silence crashed across the room. My cousin's mouth opened, no sound emerged. Her face drained of color so quickly it looked like the blood had been pulled out of her with a thread. "W," she finally choked. "That's not, he didn't mean, this is some kind of joke." The lawyer's expression didn't budge. "It is not a joke. He named you specifically, Jenna Hale." The room seemed to shrink around her. She shook her head violently. "No. He adored me." "He adored what you pretended to be," I said softly. Her eyes snapped to mine, wide, furious, terrified. But the lawyer wasn't finished. "Furthermore," she continued, "any family member who laughed, ignored, or enabled harm toward Lydia Monroe shall receive a reduced inheritance proportional to their involvement." My aunt gasped. My mother's hand flew to her throat. My uncle muttered something under his breath that sounded like a prayer or a curse. And then the lawyer read the line that froze everyone entirely. "The bulk of my estate, my home, my savings, my investments, and my trust, belongs to Lydia Monroe, who showed courage and integrity in a room full of spectators." My vision blurred. Not from greed. Not from surprise. From the weight of being believed. My cousin shot up from her chair, sending it crashing backward. "No. She manipulated him. She lied. She's always lying." The lawyer raised a hand. "Sit down, Miss Hale." But she didn't. He paced, trembling. "She was pretending that day. She's always pretending. Fake injuries, fake sympathy, fake." "That's enough," my mother snapped suddenly, her voice breaking in a way I had never heard. "Stop talking, Jenna." My cousin froze, stunned. My mother looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. Her face crumpled with something that almost looked like regret. I didn't know it would matter this much," she whispered. "Grandpa knew. He always knew." The lawyer continued summarizing the distributions. Small amounts to my aunt and uncle, charity donations, instructions for Grandpa's garden to be maintained. But most of it, almost all of it, was mine. My cousin sank into her chair, shaking, whispering, "He took everything from me." "No. He simply returned what she had taken. Respect. Accountability. Truth." The lawyer closed the folder. "This concludes the reading." My family sat in stunned silence. A silence that felt like years of denial finally cracking open. As everyone filed out, I remained seated for a moment. The portrait on the wall watched over me. Grandpa's soft smile now held a new meaning. He hadn't been avenging me. He had been teaching them. Teaching all of us what kindness looks like when written into legacy. When I finally stepped outside, the rain had eased into a drizzle. The sidewalk glistened. The air smelled like earth and possibility in equal measure. My cousin stormed past me, mascara streaked down her cheeks, muttering curses that dissolved into the wind. My mother paused near the door, hesitating, flickering between guilt and silence. "Lydia," she whispered. I looked at her. "Steady. Unbroken. You had so many chances," I said softly. "But Grandpa was the only one who saw me." Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't argue. She couldn't. Outside the office, I tightened my grip on the crutch. Not for support, but for memory. For everything it symbolized. For everything that moment had cost me and everything the will returned. The world felt larger now. Quieter. If you've lived anything like this, tell your story, and don't forget to subscribe. The wind shifted gently, brushing my hair across my cheek like a whisper from someone who kept his promises. And I realized I hadn't been the weakest one in the room. Some wounds reveal who we really are.